Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Voting Voice. Today's episode is going to be a little different from some of the previous ones. We've spent a lot of time talking about institutions, politics, power structures, and social systems, but today we're stepping into something a bit more personal, something that affects everyday interactions in ways we often don't notice. And that topic is visual appeal, or more simply put, why appearance matters so much in how people perceive with each other. Now, most people like to say that looks don't matter. We grow up hearing things like, don't judge a book by its cover, or what matters is what's on the inside. And those ideas are good values. But if we're being honest, human behavior doesn't follow these ideals. Because the reality is that visual impressions are incredibly powerful. They happen almost instantly. With seconds of meeting someone, our brain starts making judgments. We think of questions like, are they trustworthy? Are they competent? Are they confident? Do we like them? And most of those judgments happen before a single meaningful conversation even begins. Part of the reason for this comes from basic psychology. As humans are visual creatures, our brains evolved to process visual information extremely quickly. Thousands of years ago, rapid visual judgment could mean the difference between safety and danger. And this message was that if you saw someone approaching your tribe, you had seconds to decide whether they were a threat or not. So our brains developed shortcuts. Psychologists sometimes call these negative heuristics. They are mental shortcuts that help us process information quickly, but they are shortcuts that can also create bias. And one of the most well-known biases related to appearance is something called the halo effect. The halo effect means that when someone has one positive trait, like being physically attractive, people often assume they have other positive traits too. They are perceived as more intelligent, more capable, even more trustworthy, and despite there no actual evidence for these assumptions. This effect shows up in a surprising number of areas. Studies have found that attractive people are sometimes perceived more positively in job interviews and are shown more in advertising. They may perceive higher performance evaluations. They may even receive lighter judgments in certain legal situations. Now that doesn't mean attractiveness guarantees success, but it does suggest that appearance can influence first impressions in subtle ways, and first impressions can matter more than we realize. Another interesting element of visual appeal is presentation. This includes things like clothing, posture, grooming, and body language. These signals communicate information about identity, confidence, and social awareness. For example, someone who appears organized and confident may be perceived as more competent before they even start speaking. Again, these perceptions may not always be accurate, but perception still shapes interaction. Social media has amplified this dynamic dramatically. In previous generations, visual appearance mattered mostly in physical spaces, workplaces, schools, social gatherings. Today, visual presentation exists in digital environments as well. Profiles, photos, videos, and curated images create impressions long before people meet in person. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube have made visual storytelling a central part of modern communication, which means appearance and presentation often become part of personal branding. This has created both opportunities and pressures. On one hand, individuals can shape their image and reach large audiences. On the other hand, constant visual comparison can affect self-esteem and expectations. Another factor to consider is cultural standards. What people find visually appealing is not universal, as different societies emphasize different features, styles, and aesthetics. Standards change over time as well. Fashion evolves, beauty ideals shift, What was considered attractive 50 years ago may not be the same today, which reminds us that appearance is not purely biological, but it's also cultural, as time flies and some decades just have different styles of fashion. Now, here's an interesting question. If visual appeal perception influences it so strongly, then what does that mean for fairness? Should we try to eliminate visual bias, or is it simply a part of human psychology that we need to be aware of? There is no simple answer for this question, but awareness does help. When people recognize that first impressions can be influenced by appearance, they can slow down their judgments and focus on substance. And institutions, workplaces, schools, organizations, as these designs can process that, emphasizing skills and performance rather than surface level impressions. At the same time, visual presentation will probably never disappear as a factor in human interaction. Communication is not just verbal, but it's visual, behavioral, and emotional. People naturally interpret signals from multiple sources. So the goal may not be eliminating appearance from the perception entirely. It may be leaning to balance appearance with deeper evaluation. So next time you meet someone new or see someone for the first time, it's worth asking yourself, how much of my judgment is based on appearance, and how much is based on actual information? Because visual appeal is powerful, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, follow the podcast, please, and thank you, so you don't miss future episodes. And feel free to think about this question. Do you think visual appearance affects success more than people admit? Thanks for listening to Vote and Voice, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.